Hi everyone. Hope y'all had a great Thanksgiving break. I had a pretty good one, even though my birthday was on Thanksgiving and I didn't get to go home, and my roommates all left, so I was alone most of the time, and that made it really hard to get up. I just had no motivation. But moving on to the lesson, scriptures were the rest of Judges, Ruth, and 1 Samuel 1 through 15. And I'm going to focus on Ruth because she is a wonderful example, and I think you can learn a lot from her. First question is, what was the situation in the land of Judah when Ruth and Naomi lived? Initially, there was a famine, and that is why Naomi and her husband and two sons moved away to Moab. And then Naomi's husband died, and her two sons took on wives, and one of them was Ruth, of course. And then Judah became fertile again, so they were moving back, and that's when her two sons passed away. So that's kind of the background and what was going on in Judah. They also had a lot of wars because it was the time of Judges, so things were very shaky. List the trials Ruth faced in Ruth 1. First off, of course, her husband died. I mean, that must have been hard enough. Then when she decided to stay with Naomi, that was a trial in itself because back then women didn't have their own jobs. They didn't own land or anything like that. They lived off their husbands. And Naomi was too old to get married, and Ruth had just lost her husband, and they kind of had this time of mourning before they would even think about marrying again. No, this is just something that I know of. It's not in the scriptures. I think it's like a year or so, something like that. And also, she was traveling to a faraway place that she didn't know. She was leaving behind all the family that she had besides Naomi, and Naomi was just her mother-in-law. To think that she would stay with her mother-in-law was pretty crazy. Something going on in his head. Choose one trial that is like you. Choose one trial that is like one you have faced and briefly describe it. It was kind of hard. I was like, what have I done? And then I thought, oh, like Ruth, I moved away to a place that was very unfamiliar to me, and that was college. Where I am is so far, not compared to some, but really far from where my home is, and so it was really tough having to I'm nowhere near any family. I'm on my own, and so I had to adapt to this situation, and I had to learn how to support myself, which I'm not doing entirely, but a lot more than I was when I was home with my family. Explain what you think motivated Ruth to go with Naomi. In what ways would it have been hard for Ruth to go with Naomi? I believe Ruth had a lot of love and compassion for Naomi. Being her mother-in-law, Ruth just must have gained a lot of love, and she probably knew Naomi wouldn't have been able to just go off by herself. She couldn't marry again, so there was no way for her to live on her own, and so Ruth must have wanted to be able to do something for her. So she went with her, and they were able to make it by supporting on each other. It would have been hard because she was leaving her family. She was leaving her immediate family, her mother, her father, maybe some siblings she had. And she must have also known that she would have become the primary support for both of them to live off of, to find some way to find food and shelter for them. Why was Boaz so impressed with Ruth? I mean, Boaz was the owner of the field, and he must have seen like the way Ruth was out there gathering food for her and Naomi, and must have been impressed by that love and faithfulness. Explain what you can learn about facing your challenges from the examples in this chapter. I kind of learned, like, if you have faith in the Lord and you have love for your family, you'll be blessed. And other people will see that love and they will want to help you, because it's kind of like a give and take. I don't know how to explain it. Briefly describe the greatest sacrifice you have yet made because of your commitment to the Lord. Then write an answer to the question, has your sacrifice become a blessing? If so, please describe how it did. If not, describe how you feel about the sacrifice. Because I was born into the church, I haven't made a lot of sacrifices because I never like started something bad and then had to give it up. But there are some sacrifices that I make that not a lot of other people do, and that's time and acceptance. And I'm going to focus on that acceptance. Because of my beliefs and my principles, I don't get to participate in the same kind of things my peers did. Oftentimes my friends would go out and do something and I would be left behind because it was something that was bad, or it was something that I didn't feel was going to be right. And so oftentimes I kind of felt left out. I felt that I wasn't normal, and other people would see that too. They were my friends, and I do appreciate them. They would often do things just for me so that I could go do them too, but they kind of had this like other side to their lives that I didn't. And it was really weird to see that. But because of that sacrifice, I have been blessed with many things. I've stayed out of trouble. I have nothing on my record. I am not addicted to some of the things they may be. And I'm sometimes been able to be part of something way more important. Many times they'd go out and do something and I would be at some sort of church function, I'd be doing a service, and they would go out and be doing something that was bad for the world. And I got to make the world better. And, for me that's a blessing. I felt so good because I made these differences, and I hope that some of these differences made something for them. I'd be so glad if one of my friends just told me, oh, I'm so glad you did this. It did this for me, and I'm so grateful to you. That'd be wonderful to hear. I don't think I ever will, but maybe someday. The last question is, explain why you think Boaz was so kind to Ruth. And to begin with, I think Boaz must have been kind to begin with, because you can change someone once in a while, like something you did could soften their heart, but it's hard. And so I think he must have been kind to begin with, and then he had even more compassion on her because he saw that she was kind also, that she had this love and faithfulness, and he must have just been so touched by her actions. He wanted to help her. And so what he did is, if you know the story, or maybe if you don't, so she would glean. And what that means is when they were out, they gathered the grain. I don't know if it was wheat or what. Probably was. And they would, with the little scythe, I think that's what it's called, they slice it off and they throw it on the ground, and then someone would come over and they'd pick up all that. And that was called gleaning. But what she would do is, after they had done all that, she would go through again and she'd find all the ones they missed. Now, if you think about that, probably wasn't a lot. But what Boaz did was he like gathered his servants like, psst, psst, come here, leave a little on the ground. So he's like, don't pick it all up. So they'd pick them up and then they'd like drop some of it, and they'd like pick up some more and they'd drop some of that. So I think it was kind of cute, you know. It's kind of like, oh, let her have a little bit more. Just don't tell her. And eventually he married Ruth, and he must have just been overwhelmed by that love and faithfulness. And I just think Ruth is a wonderful woman, you know, to have such love and kindness for her mother-in-law is just wonderful. And I hope you guys have a great week and stay good and stay in school. Bye.